So, good morning, listeners. Welcome from Sherry Forsyth, a peak performance coach. And I am doing a theme on health-related issues in my Facebook Live for the last month I have, and for the next month I'm going to do the same. And so today I welcome Tanya March, a dietitian, who's going to be talking to us about what we put into our bodies and her particular philosophy of eating that is a little bit different from the mainstream dietitian. So I'm going to start, Tanya, saying welcome.
Thank you.
And the first question I want to ask you is, what training did you have to undergo to get to where you are right now?
Okay, Sherry, I firstly studied cordon bleu chefing down in Cape Town quite a few years back. And then I decided to study dietetics. So I became a dietitian. I also did my master's in dietetics. And I've done quite a few courses over the years, from hypnotherapy to functional medicine to nutritional certificates, just in order to be able to understand where people are going in regards to health. I also did Pilates. I was an exercise instructor. So I tend to go through the whole holistic approach of health in order to help the client. So that's my main aim. I've just been to France and did a mindfulness retreat, which was loads of fun with Buddhist nuns at Plum Village. And that also showed me a lot about how mindfulness and being present was in order to help move the clients forward in order to get higher success rates from them. Yes.
So you are you mentioned a few words that I think are really important there. One being holistic.
Yeah.
So many people will only go to a dietitian not for their health, but actually to lose weight.
Mm.
So you are much more than that. In
Yeah.
fact, it probably irritates you between people come to want to lose weight. The second really important word is functional medicine. Certainly in South Africa, it's quite a new branch of medicine. And the functional medical doctors do have a normal medical degree, but they look at you very holistically. They look at you incorporating some of the complementary modalities as well. So it's an up and coming area. And if you have been battling, particularly with a chronic illness that the doctors are not picking up in the test, they're telling you fine, meantime you actually know you're not, then have a look for functional doctors or integrative doctors. The words are interchangeable. They're mainly based in Cape Town and Durban. But it certainly would be really advised, because a lot of our allopathic tests that the doctors do are not able to test what we're wanting them to test. So for example, my husband was under a functional medical doctor, and he did tests on food intolerance that no other doctor had ever done, and found out that Mark was intolerant to a huge number of foods. In fact, he could hardly eat anything. So we rang our friend Tanya's doorbell to say, help, we need to get a balanced diet going here on the few things that he can eat. So you like challenges like that?
Yes, and the most people that come to me that want to lose weight, we look at it on a functional matrix where we understand the person's timeline, so preconception to what's happening now. Their main goal is to lose weight, but once I start unpacking everything from stress to sleep to exercise, relaxation, spiritual, inflammatory response, detoxification, there's a whole list of things we look at. Once I understand the person and where they're at the present moment, then I can say to them, yes, I know you wanted to lose the weight, but we've got high inflammatory response. There's a lot of depression, anxiety in the family. It's following through what's going on and what's the stress like. So we've got to look at this person as a whole and then understand maybe the diet is just going to be too much for them. They're not going to be able to follow it. They're going to feel like a failure because they can't succeed in it because they're not in the right space, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. So what we got to do is we got to meet that person where they're at. So if a person will come and say, I want to lose weight and I've done all this information, it's taken about 90 minutes to get where we're at, I'll say, all right, let's just implement 3 basic changes. So maybe I need you to go to make a time with a life coach or a psychologist, or maybe I need a kinesiologist to come in, or a homeopath to sort out the hormonal issues, because there's sometimes where you say, I'm actually not qualified to do things, and I need a better approach in order to help get the success rate that we want. So what I do is I'll give them 3 basic approaches. It might be cut out sugar, it might be reduce your alcohol, it might be take certain supplements. But some of my clients are hectic with gut, so I might need to do a total gut protocol or a detoxification on the liver. So it really depends on the individual, and that's the problem is one diet doesn't fit all, and 95% of diets don't work, and we know that. So if you want to come to me for a diet and that's all you want, I can give it to you. But I know the success rate is 95%, whereas I want 100% or 75%. So how can we make it work together is I've got to understand you. You've got to understand you in order to make the change. And that's where we dig a lot deeper with functional medicine forms of treatment. And a lot more of the dietitians are becoming functional medicine. We don't do all the courses. You know, there's a basic course we look at on how to look at the inflammatory response, the gut, and all those things. And you can go and advance yourself further. But that's a lot of what the medical practitioners do, because it just costs about 250 to 500,000 rand to do it. It's a lot of money. But what I find is all my experience and what I've learned and what I've seen over the years just helps you formulate a phenomenal plan, and then you get the right people involved in order to help complement that person's success over time. Remember, diet is it's like a quick fix for a lot of people, but the success rate is very few.
Why do you think approaching people holistically, in other words, making use of other professionals that you think they might need, why do you think that is so important for a dietitian to have that attitude rather than just looking at the very narrow aspect of nutrition only?
Okay, because if I look at the mind especially, I was chatting to a psychologist who's done a functional medicine course in Durban, and he was chatting to me and he said, Tanya, most of my clients, he's 99% of my clients are females, and they come to him and he said with major gut issues and depression and anxiety and a whole lot of mood disorders. And he said, and actually 95% of them, it's all stress related. It's all emotional. So the thing for me is I can come in and help with the nutritional plan, but if it's the emotion driving you to what you're doing and your mental state, then 60 minutes to create a diet plan that is going to put you under more stress is not what you actually need. So I start to understand that there are more people that are going to need to be involved in order to get what you are wanting to achieve.
Ultimate health.
Yeah, ultimate in health, yes, and wellness. But it's up here that the more I read, the more I understand we need to change the way we think. And someone said to me, you are not your thoughts. A psychologist said that to me a while back, and I thought, what does she mean by you are not your thoughts? And what was interesting is you create what's up there. If you want to change, if you want to be a better version of you, you can do it. But you need help. You need people like you in order to say, what are your values? What are your needs? What is your self-worth? I mean, I came to Sherry quite a while ago, and she asked me all these questions because I didn't know who I was anymore. You know, being married with kids, and a lot of us lose our sense of self and our self-worth. And I think a majority of my clients don't know who they are. They don't love who they are. They have no self-worth. And that for me is the crux of it. Is let's get you to know who you are, love who you are, in order to make that change. Because if you don't love who you are, you're not going to change. So, you know, it's going to be harder to change, should I say.
So, I mean, a lot of people, particularly people who are really overweight, they kind of have this idea that they won't be able to lose weight unless they look at the emotional issues that are tied in with a lot of people who are overweight tend to be hurting from something psychologically, so they protect themselves.
Yeah.
So you are actually in agreement of the fact that it's not the cause of their overweight, the fact that they're overweight, but they're more likely to get their body into balance, which will then be a balanced weight if their whole life is in balance and has been looked at.
Yes, I think for me, it's not just the food that creates the problem, it's what's going on internally. And what you'll find is I'll get clients who are overweight or obese. And yes, we need to look at their thyroid, their metabolic syndrome. We need to see if there's an autoimmune component to it. And we also need to understand that inflammation plays a massive role. So what I can do as a dietitian is I can give you certain simple tips to start off with. I can put you on like a probiotic, an omega-3. We know those two help with weight loss with individuals and get the gut right. And then I start to look at tests, medical tests or blood tests, genetic testing. I'll get some of the functional medicines or the homeopaths that I work with a lot involved. So we get to understand, is there a metabolic problem? Is there an emotional problem? And what are we really dealing with?
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of particularly women, after they've had their children, their bodies are never quite the same. And then maybe they go through a painful marriage and end up protecting their body by that additional weight. Then they go into metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance. For those people, is there hope that they'll be able to lose weight if they look at themselves holistically and do kind of what their doctors are saying?
Well, you know what's interesting, Sherry, is I'm finding, I used to have this mentality of you got to have a certain amount of carbs, proteins, and fat a day. And when I work with insulin-dependent individuals and I work with people, type 2 diabetics, my type 1s are a little bit more tricky. But when I work with the type 2s that are not too intense and my insulin resistance, I start to know that low carbohydrates, higher fat eating plans actually works for them beautifully. And I can't believe that we're still in this mode of thought to say it doesn't. So for me, I'll put someone on a low carb, high fat Mediterranean style diet. And if you read Dr. Fung, who's phenomenal with his approach on getting people with insulin resistance and diabetes under control. And I worked at Riverview Manor, which was an addictive, depressive anxiety unit, with also eating disorders. And I could control the diabetics' diet with food and the insulin regime. And if I cut the carbs down and I up their fat and I changed the macronutrients requirements, I saw phenomenal results within those couple of years. And I was in an environment where I could control it and I could actually see it. So what I'm saying is that the problem is that sometimes we're treating the obese individual, the insulin resistant individual, on the wrong kind of eating plan for them. And we're still in that mentality, we've got to have X, Y, Z. No, everyone is different. So you've got to say, come into my office, let me try and work on this regime with the psychologist, psychiatrist, or whoever you're working with, a homeopath. Sometimes I put my clients with hypnotherapists. I actually got a rep coming in and said, we'll put a balloon in that person's stomach. They blow this balloon up with water. And I'm very uncomfortable. It causes a whole lot of symptoms. You don't eat much. You obviously can develop certain nutritional deficiencies with not eating enough of these types of foods. You can drink a lot, alcohol.
Oh, that's the good news.
Which is the good news. Not quite. But the thing is that, and if I said, well, how much is it going to cost? It's going to cost about over 30,000 Rand to do this. And I said, well, why can't people just go to a hypnotherapist? Because a hypnotherapist, it might cost about 6,000 to 8,000 Rand by the end of it. There's no after effects. There's no discomfort. There's no symptoms. You lose the weight. I've seen it with my sister did a lot of hypnotherapy with obese individuals, and they were losing between 20 to 25 kgs. Was it successful long term if that person came on a regular basis, like every couple of months, in order to reinforce that behavior and habit? It worked. So for me, the thing is, what will work for you won't work for me. And everyone is genetically different. And remember, environment impacts your genes. Up to, some people say up to 95%. So you can keep genes dormant for so long, but as soon as you create a change, a divorce, a stress, bad eating, lots of cigarette smoking, toxic buildup, you can create that genetic dysfunction in the system, which will create problems long term. So we can do a lot of changes now, but everyone is different.
Yeah. So it's almost like the same attitude that the homeopaths have, where you can come, two patients can come with the same issue, but the way that they treat it is personalized because everybody's body is different. So you're very individualized. When a patient or client comes to you, you are very, you really look at them as an individual and then put together a plan, including other professionals, that will suit that particular individual for the issue that they're having. You don't just kind of one diet fits all, or even with certain symptoms like cardiac, all my cardiac patients must do X. You very personalized.
Yes, and I think you need to be, because that person, the cardiac patient, if you give them a certain cardiometabolic plan for that person, and they're not in the right state for it, they're not going to do it. They're going to feel like a failure. They're going to put more stress on themselves. They're going to get into more depression. They're going to put more stress on their heart. Why do I want to do that? So what we've got to do is we've got to try to meet them where they're at in order to help them out. Yeah, they're communicating.
Sorry, I apologize for our dogs barking outside the window. They're agreeing with this amazing stuff that we're speaking about. Tanya, so just very briefly, there's quite a lot written about gut health, and it's become increasingly evident that a lot of our illnesses start because of gut health not being our gut not being well. What are symptoms that some of our listeners might experience to indicate that your gut health is not good?
Okay, well, firstly, gut health becomes not good, obviously, from what you're eating and putting in your body, but also stress plays a major role in it. So for me, I try and get the clients to address the stress. But things like irritable bowel syndrome, some people say IBS, which is the acronym for it. IBS could be due to your bacteria actually moving from the large intestine to the small intestine. We call it SIBO. So you'll get abdominal discomfort, abdominal pain, abdominal bloating. You'll also get your constipation, diarrhea. Some people get nausea. So it's mainly discomfort around this area. Those are the physical symptoms. The other conditions you can experience is depression, anxiety, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, or can be exacerbated by it.
Maybe trauma.
Trauma. One of my clients had a problem with their gut, and they cut the vagus nerve that connects the gut with the brain, and I've seen quite a few of this being done over the years. They don't do it that much anymore, and just the discomfort that she's experienced from that, there's like no communication anymore, and that's a very important nerve for us to be able to have a connection between the brain and the gut. So for me, it's to understand that it's not just about abdominal discomfort. Depression, anxiety, and all those things start to play a role in health and wellness in individuals.
So you've mentioned a couple of times, that there's a connection between the emotions and gut health and general health. So what some people don't know is with the production of serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical, which is lacking when you are suffering from depression. Many people think that most of the serotonin is actually manufactured in your brain and your head, but in actual fact, most of it is manufactured in your gut, which is a concrete indication of the link between our thoughts, our feelings, our mind, and our stomach as well. And that's why when you are very anxious, or you suddenly faced with a trauma, your gut is the thing that reacts. You get nauseous, you can actually be sick, you can have the diarrhea or the constipation. And it's because our bodies are so beautifully made, all of the bits are linked with each other. And what we've tried to do, sadly, is we try to separate them. And then the doctors treat only that area. They don't look at the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm delighted to hear that there are other dietitians who have your approach as well of looking holistically at people. So I have 2 more questions, Tanya. The first is, what made you so passionate about doing the work you do?
I was sick quite a while ago. I mean, I enjoyed my profession, but when I started it, but I just thought there's always been something, I wouldn't say not right with it, but there's something I was missing. And I got quite sick 7 years ago, major gut issues, and I couldn't help myself with the eating plan, the science that I read in regards to helping myself out. And then a physiotherapist gave me this book called The Gaps Diet by Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, a neurologist. So I read it and I thought, it's a pretty intense eating plan, but I was so desperate for gut because I'd gone the medical route and no one could help me out. And I actually also did the skio, and a lot of people poo-poo the skio, but I was desperate and I said, please, let me go on the skio. So a nurse friend of mine did the skio. I started on lactobacillus digestive enzymes. I couldn't eat anything for a couple of days, so I lived on broths. And I had to slowly include food back in the diet and in my eating plan. And it took me about 6 months to basically be able to eat normally again. Sure. And I still can't eat what I used to be able to eat. But it showed me that everyone is different. And my training, which was fantastic at university, was not facilitating the change I need. The medical fraternity was not helping me out. And I get people that they say they need their colons to be removed. And I go, oh, wait. Let's give me a couple of months and let's chat to the doctor and see if we can get your gut sorted with dietary approach and look at your stress and how do we do mindfulness and breathing and all of those things. And it's been amazing how some people, a lot of them actually have been able to reverse their condition because they just needed the advice on how to help their gut as well as their emotions. So that's what got me passionate about looking at alternative medicine in order to say, how can I help myself? How can I help you that walks through my door? I know I'm not the only key. There's a few other people, the kinesiologists. Some people are using energy medicine. I'm not going to poo-poo what you want to use, because if you think it's going to work, placebo effect, it's going to have a higher success rate. But I'm going to say, let's facilitate that treatment with the help of that professional in order to say, let's move forward to what we want to achieve or what you want to achieve. But I'm there to help facilitate that movement as well.
So for the listeners out there, if any of you have any specific questions for Tanya, please feel free to make a comment in the comment box below. I will send all the questions through to her. Or if you would like to not be so public on Facebook and would rather like to make contact, please feel free to contact me via my website, which is sherryforsythcoaching.com. Or you can send me an email on sherryforsyth@gmail.com, spelled CHERRIFORSYTH @gmail.com. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to talk about these issues, because the frustration of going from doctor to doctor to doctor and being told that you're fine when you know you're not. And then you begin to think, well, there must be something wrong with my mind. Maybe it is all in my mind. And then you question yourself. So what we're trying to do in these interviews is open the conversation.
And then, Sherry, sorry, just quickly, I get a lot of clients that have Coxsackie and Epstein-Barr, rickettsia, tick-borne illnesses that aren't really recognized here so much. And I just feel it's also been treated and mismanaged so badly. And I get people being told to go to the gym and just sweat it out and exercise hard, and it lands you up in an inflammatory response for up to a week, and you can't do any exercise. So for me, the viral aspects of things is also taking a toll in a lot of the area in Natal. I'm finding, kids at the age of 10 having the Coxsackie virus affecting the heart, athletes, it's occurring. So for me, I like to treat clients individually with the health and wellness, and to say that they're not hypochondriacs, those kind of individuals. They need to be managed with love and care rather than just follow this diet, go and exercise for an hour a day and you'll be fine. So just to reiterate that as well.
It's so important that you say that. There are a number of athletes who, because of the stress and pressure that's put on them, that's one of the catalyzing factors. They've developed the chronic fatigue syndromes, the Epstein-Barr. And you're quite right. The coaches actually accuse these athletes of being lazy. And they don't understand that the bodies of the athletes actually can't they just can't do it because they're under such a viral load, as well as the stress and the pressure and everything else that goes with it. So the sports coaches, and that is my background, coming from a sports background, the coaches need to be very aware of, they need to know their athletes, because some athletes, when they say I'm tired, then it's not just that they're a little bit tired. It means they can hardly get out of bed.
Yeah.
And if the coaches also can approach their athletes as individuals rather than one size fits all, that'll make a huge difference. So what I'm putting together is in a workshop in September, I'm wanting to do a workshop on illness, particularly illnesses you can't see. And so we're going to put together a morning for the people who are actually suffering, but also for the people who are caring for them, and their friends and family, so that even though they're not looking sick, they feel so sick inside. And what happens is then there's no communication, because you get tired of permanently saying, I'm feeling unwell, I'm feeling sick, and you're looking fine. So then you actually stop trying to get yourself better, because you're hard on yourself and you think, well, must be in my brain. So we're putting together a workshop. So if you have any particular stories of your own illnesses, where you are in the illness, what's helped you, what you found really challenging and frustrating, please feel free to be in contact so that we can then include that as part of the workshop. So I'm going to end off with the final question for Tanya, which is, what do you think is some of the most important advice you can give our listeners about their health?
Okay, about their health. Yes, a quick one. All right, obviously being a dietitian and nutritionist, I'd say let's look at cutting down on sugar consumption. That's a big one. The World Health Organization used to say 12 teaspoons a day. They're saying around about 6 teaspoons. I say 3 teaspoons or no teaspoons of sugar a day. Be mindful and present. That for me is absolutely huge. When you're mindful and present, you understand where you are with your body, emotionally, physically, mentally, and you can make the correct decision moving forward. So if you're going to put something in your mouth, does your body want it? Are you eating out of emotion? Are you eating it because your body's hungry? So that for me is important, being mindful and present while throughout life. Okay. And the third thing is looking after your gut. So either a probiotic if you don't have a serious autoimmune condition. So looking at a probiotic, one with Lactobacillus bifidoflora. I tend to love kefir. Kombucha I enjoy, but some people with too much candida, it creates too much fermentation in the gut, and they really battle with it. So sauerkraut, kimchi, those are the kind of things I would include. So it's cut out sugar or a little bit of sugar, mindfulness, being present, as well as your probiotic use in the natural form, I find is better than tablet form.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tanya,
I enjoyed being here.
For taking time out of a very busy schedule and literally giving our listeners something to chew on for this week. But I just remind you, if you have any questions or queries, please feel free to get in contact, and we'll do our best to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Nice meeting you all, and hope to hear from you soon.
Okay, and from me, until next week, have a lovely week going forward. Bye.